Good evening, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people. Today is December 18th, 2023. And we are past Hanukkah. We have been watching all the signs that were leading us to Hanukkah. Hanukkah was not the time, but we still have so many things that are happening. So many things happening right now. As we go through our YouTube feed, we're going to see that the Iceland volcano has now finally erupted after weeks of anticipation. Very big headline. Then we have U.S. is ready and preparing. The United States is ready and preparing for war against Yemen. Another very important headline that we're watching. And this caught my attention from Redacted. Ukraine is snatching people off the streets to fight Russia and Putin. Interesting word that they chose there. There was another emergency meeting today at the United Nations on East Jerusalem and the Palestinian situation. Emergency UN General Assembly meeting. So they're continuing to talk about peace and safety there at the United Nations as it concerns Israel. Okay, but what I want to talk to you about now is this gap in between Hanukkah and the winter solstice, and whether we are going to the winter solstice or quite possibly 4 days later to even Christmas. I want to talk about this 4-day gap from Hanukkah to the winter solstice. In John chapter 10, we see that Jesus was in Jerusalem at the Feast of Dedication and it was winter. Okay, so Hanukkah, Jesus is in Jerusalem, it is winter. And when John 10 ends then, okay, John 10 ends, and the next thing we see in John 11 is the resurrection of Lazarus, who was raised after being dead for 4 days. Okay, so we go from the Feast of Dedication, and the next story we have is the resurrection of Lazarus 4 days later. Lazarus means God has helped. Bethany means house of happiness. And a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. And then it goes on to talk about, are there not 12 hours in the day? Is this connected to a solstice or an equinox time frame? And Lazarus was resurrected 4 days later. Okay, so we have the connection to Hanukkah and we have a 4-day connection. Now the other connection that I want to look at is the life of Abraham. But before we get into Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, let's look at Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to see that it ends here with, or Genesis chapter 11 is the destruction of the Tower of Babel. Okay, and it's all about Nimrod, right? The whole earth was one language and one speech. It came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime they had for mortar. Then let us go and build a tower and a city whose top may reach unto heaven. Let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Okay? So the destruction of the Tower of Babel happens. And then in Genesis chapter 12, Abraham is called out of his country to go into the nation that God would give to him. And Abraham departed when he was 75 years old. Okay? 75 years old. Okay, so Abraham was born in 1948, and he was called in 2023. Biblical chronology reveals an important sign in the life of Abraham, indicating that our end times journey is about to begin. By adding up the years in Genesis 5 and 11 from creation to the birth of Abraham, we see that he was born 1948 years after creation. This is remarkable. Abraham was the father of the nation of Israel, and the modern state of Israel was reborn in 1948 as well. This parallel between the years after creation and the years AD is interesting, especially considering what comes next. In Genesis 12, verse 4, we read that Abraham was 75 years old when he left Haran, setting out for the land of Canaan. In 1948 plus 75 is 2023. Okay? So Abraham was called in 1948, or he was born in 1948, and then he was called to leave his country 75 years later, which would be 2023, 75 years after 1948. And so we have the downfall of the Tower of Babel, and then we have the call of Abraham. Now, what I want to bring to everybody's attention here is that Nimrod, which is also Baal, as shown in the movie Leave the World Behind, as shown here by Joseph Acquaviva, and others have shown this as well, that within the title or within the letters of the movie, you can spell out Baal in the names of the actors. Leave the World Behind, Baal. Okay. Also within the movie, there was this reference to the evil cabal meeting and doing their dirty work during the winter solstice. And so we have this sequence of events that happened in the movie, and they were talking about it. And he says, "Are you hanging with your evil cabal this weekend? I thought that was only during the winter solstice." We have in Genesis chapter 11 the fall of the Tower of Babel. Nimrod is connected to the Tower of Babel, and between Nimrod and Baal, the time that they are worshipped is the time of the winter solstice leading up to Christmas. Nimrod, Baal, and all of the Babylonian religions and gods are connected to the winter solstice time frame. Nimrod, Baal, and all the others, Zeus. Okay, it's all connected to the winter solstice and the time leading up to Christmas. So, as we look at Genesis chapter 11 and the destruction of the Tower of Babel, then we have the call of Abraham. So what I'm wondering is, was Abraham called out in his 75th year? Maybe he was called to leave his homeland on the same day that the Tower of Babel was destroyed. And the Lord said unto Abraham, "Get out of thy country." Now, this is just pure speculation, but maybe the Tower of Babel was destroyed at the winter solstice, because that was the time that they were worshiping Nimrod, and they were doing his dirty work at the time of the winter solstice, and God came down to destroy this evil cabal that had this plan to build a city and that it would reach up into heaven. And God came down to destroy it. And they were all doing this dirty work at the time of the winter solstice, which was the birthday of Nimrod and the birthday of Baal, and the time that they worship all of these Babylonian gods. And maybe this was the exact time frame that God called Abraham to leave. Okay, now 75 years. So here's a couple things that we can consider. from May 14th, 1948 to December 21st, 2023 is 75 years, 7 months, and 7 days. So in Abraham's 75th year, okay, we know that Abraham was called to leave in the 75th year, leave Babylon. And I'm going to show you a new place. I'm going to get you out of here. I'm going to get you out of this God-forsaken place where all of these people are worshiping all these false gods. And I'm going to give you a new place, and I'm going to give you a new religion. I'm going to give you a new experience, right? And God called Abraham out of all that in the 75th year. He was born in 1948, just as Israel was reborn in 1948. He was called to leave 75 years later, which was 2023, from creation. And now it is 2023. 75 years, 7 months, and 7 days from the rebirth of Israel. But then, here's another marker. Within 2023, we come to 2023, and if 2023 is such a key moment anyway, because we have 1,335 years from the Dome of the Rock being set up in 688 AD. 688 AD, the Dome of the Rock was set up, and 1,260 years later was 1948. Israel was reborn in the 1,260th year from the Dome of the Rock. And then 75 years later, 2023, you have 1,335 years from the abomination being set up. And so 2023 is such a huge marker anyway that we have been watching with all of this, and then connected to the beginning of the pandemic starting in 2019, 2020. So we come to 2023, we come to the Feast of Tabernacles. I mean, this could be the very end. This could be the very end. It could have ended right there on the Feast of Tabernacles. It could have been the 7th or 8th day of the Feast of Tabernacles that it could have ended. It could have been the rapture of the church at this final, the 8th day of Tabernacles in this pivotal year of 2023. But the war began, and now we have, from October 7th, 2023, the winter solstice is the 75th day. 75. So we have 75 years of Israel, and then we have the Feast of Tabernacles. On the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles, this war begins, and now we have 75 more days leading us to the winter solstice. And so it's 75 days from the beginning of the war, and it's also 75 years, 7 months, and 7 days from the rebirth of Israel on May 14th, 1948. We have been watching up to the timing of Hanukkah. When Lazarus got sick, it said Jesus loved him so much that he waited two more days where he was. And he wanted it. He did that so they could believe. He did that so his name could be glorified. He did that to bring more unto himself. He did that to prepare everybody for his own resurrection so that they would believe on him, because he did not come and heal Lazarus before he died. He came, he waited. He said he knew that Lazarus was sick, and he said because he loved Lazarus so much, he waited for 2 more days where he was. And when he finally arrived, Lazarus had already been dead for 4 days. So here we have a 4-day connection from the end of Hanukkah this year. This does not line up every year. This is very rare that this is going to line up from the end of Hanukkah to the winter solstice by 4 days. I don't know when it happens again or how often this would happen, but this is a pivotal year. So we're not worried about all of the other years where this could have happened. We're worried about this year. This could be a very important sign from John chapter 10, which is Hanukkah, and then John chapter 11, the resurrection of Lazarus on the 4th day. We have the destruction of the Tower of Babel, which may be connected to the winter solstice and the birthday of Nimrod. and all of the Babylonian religions. And we have the 75 years of Abraham, who may have been called on the same day that the Tower of Babel was destroyed, leave this country and go to a new place. Abraham was 75. And all of this is connected. It's the 75th day of the war, 75th year of Israel. And it all leads back to all of these Babylonian gods that are worshipped at the winter solstice, leading up to Christmas, even as it shows in this movie, Leave the World Behind. Baal is right in the title, and it talks about the winter solstice and the evil cabal. And this was the evil cabal in Nimrod's day, right? And the birthday of the evil cabal is the winter solstice. And this is when they're worshipped. And this is what is being shown in this movie. Matthew 24:20 and 21. But pray that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Not in winter, not on the Sabbath, the shortest day of the year. We're right here. We're right here. This could be any time between December 20th, December 21st, December 22nd. Watching, as always, for the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, giving you more encouragement, more things to consider as we are patiently waiting for the return of the bridegroom. Lamps full and ready to go. I pray you guys are blessed. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people, the sign of his coming revealed.